Hello guys. Last month I got sick, seriously sick. I got the COVID and I spent almost a month on the couch, bored to tears for the first bit of it. Then I decided to turn on the Xbox and look around for some games to play, and I found Train Sim World 2. Train Sim World 2020 I already have on the PC, so I wasn't completely unfamiliar with it. And I started playing a lot of the journeys. Now, what I found was that when you start a journey in Train Sim World, it doesn't always set up your train correctly, and which is annoying if you don't know how to set up a train correctly, which is hard to do after doing just a couple of tutorials, which don't really say much about what you're doing. It just says hit this button, hit this button, hit this button, and go. Well, if you don't know why you hit the button, then you don't really know what you did, right? So I started doing a trip Q353, and it was a distributed powertrain. So two trains in the front, two locomotives in the front, two locomotives in the back, and I started off and the wheels were spinning, and eventually I got it moving, but it just very slowly, full power. It did maybe 20 miles per hour, and then I went uphill. Of course, it stops completely, and that's when I started looking into how to set these trains up properly. So this is the setup form that I will put the link of in the description. It is actually very helpful to sort of understand what you're doing, and it basically shows you the first two trains, the lead and the trail, and the distributed power lead and trail. And what you're doing is you're switching your control and fuel pumps on the trails off, and you're switching them on the lead. And what that does is it makes sure that you control everything from the lead. Now, these two get controlled electronically by the connection between the two, but in order to operate the rear ones, you'll have to use the radio, the banking comm, and I will show you how to do this. This information is also sort of in the manual, the official Train Sim World manual. The AC 4400 basically says if you want to set it up, just do it the same as the other two locomotives. So I must say there's one mistake, because it basically says the trailing, the DPU couple needs to be set up exactly the same as the front two. And that's not true, because your cutoff valve, the auto brake cutoff valve, only should be on cut in on the lead. Otherwise, you won't be able to control your brakes. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so here we are in the SD40 model. I'm lucky, I just started this, and normally on the Xbox this is actually an AC 4400, the front train, and the rear train is also 4400, and I figured out that right now I have the SD40s in the front, and if I go all the way to the back, and it's a long train, I have the AC 4400s in the back. So I'll set them both up in the front, and then I'll show you how to do the ones in the back in order to get a good get all this entire train moving properly. Okay, so first let's start with a full disclosure. Like I said, I only just learned all this. I'm not a train operator. I fix planes. I know how planes work, okay? So if I do anything wrong here and somebody notices it, I would appreciate just something in the comments. This works for Train Sim World. I'm sure there are procedures that I'm missing somewhere, but Here we go. So these three switches are important. These decide, and I have no idea why this one is, the generator field is always off. These decide what you can do from this station, from what you can control. Engine run, if I switch that off, it doesn't switch the engine off. It just doesn't allow me to operate the engine from this unit. Generator field, if I switch that off, leave that off, when I throttle up the engine, the generator won't generate the power needed for the wheels to start moving. So generator field should be on, and control and fuel pump on as well. So control is all done in this locomotive. And down here we have the trail and lead valve. You don't need 24. From what I understand, Trail 24 is like older style brake system on some wagons, but we'll go for lead because this is the lead train. Cutoff valve should be in freight. This is for your brakes. So now we have control of the brakes basically. And your lights, of course, too bright, and let's throw the reverser handle in. We're not gonna set off yet, so we'll get up and we'll look back here. The headlight control, this one is controlling with unit coupled at long hood end. This is the long hood end right here, and the other unit is coupled to that. So that's where we set that to. We'll open the fuse cabinet and let's turn on a bit of light here. The radio circuit breaker needs to be on. We need the radio to control the rear units. Alright, so now that this train is properly set up, let's head to the one behind it. Okay, so this is kind of annoying about Trim Sim World. I can't sit down here because then it wants me to leave the manifest train. The other thing is, if I'm not sitting in the engineer seat, after a couple of minutes I'll get a warning saying, hey, do you want to leave this scenario or journey, and that just ticks me off to no end, because you know you have to set up the train properly. The only way to do it is by running around front back, and every now and then you have this message. I actually once pressed it by mistake, so I will have to be careful. So while we're back here, controls from another unit coupled at either end, right? And here are the three switches, the control switches. Those need to be in off. See, do you want to give up control? No. I want to continue. Thank you. These need to be in off because these will not be controlled from this cab. That's what these switches are about. We need the MU, the multiple unit valve to trail 6. And the brake handle should be in off. Handle off right there, and the cutout valve needs to stay in cutoff. Oh, come on, there you go, cutout. So this is all set up properly. I'm gonna make sure that the radio is turned off. All right, so the front, let me zoom out so I can actually see what I'm doing. So that sets up the front 2 as a multiple unit system. And now I'm gonna head all the way to the back. I'm gonna spare you that walk because it's a long walk, and I'm gonna get this stupid message every now and then as well. So head over there and see you back there. Well, we're about a mile from the front of the train. We're at the rear 2 units. And let's start setting this up. Alright. Wow, the light is bright. Problem is, if I switch it off, it's hard to see the breakers. But as you can see, it says lead unit operations on for lead, off for trail. So all these breakers need to be on if this is the lead train. And it is the lead train because this train will control the train behind it. So the window heaters, refrigerators, we don't really care about it on the simulator, of course, but distributed power and the radio, those two are the important ones. Then there's these. These are those same control switches: engine run, generator field, and control. And they also all need to be in the on position. Yeah, lights work good. The handle, automatic brake handle, should stay in the off position. If any of these handles is not in the off position, then you're going to get mismatches and difficulties. That also is set here. Because the auto brake right now is cut out, so that handle really doesn't do anything. And if you set it up the same way, the identical way as the front 2 units, no, it will not be able to control the front train, will not be able to control the brake. So we're going to leave those cut out, sorry, and we are making this the lead train. This system, this computer system, it looks kind of complicated at first, but it really is quite simple to work. It's basically all the switches that we did on the front train, just in a different way. Whenever you make a change, the change setup line gets changed. You have to actually save changes, and you press this F6, and now we have the current setup. Is the independent brake is now the lead. Anything else? We don't touch anything else here. I think we're all set up. We will leave the lights alone. Lights actually get set up here if this is the front train, but since this is the leading unit, you would say short hood lead because the short hood is pointing outward, and this unit would then control the lights on that side. We'll head to the rear train. Oh, I'm crouching. I was wondering why I was walking real slow. Right. So those same circuit breakers right here, and we're going to switch them all off. Radio off, 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 off. I still don't want to give up control. That is really a problem, I think. Yep, they're all turned off. Right here, we have to again do these switches and turn them off because the lead will have control over all of these now. The brakes should be set properly, cut out and trail. So we're all set up here. We're ready to go with this train. And now we can head back the mile-long walk to the front. Meet you there. Right, so we're back in the forward locomotive and we're all set up. Well, almost all set up. So we haven't switched the radio to banking yet. Let's head back to the rear lead. Fortunately, this is a lot faster. Right, so we can see into the cab now. And if you look in the bottom right in the heads-up display, I shall apply some power, move the throttle forward all the way to 8. Nothing happening here. So now we shall turn on banking. Again, it's that switch right there, banking com on. Now, see the throttle? You hear the motor? So now the rear train is properly set up to do this route, this trip. And I really hate to see how, give you some light here, I really hate to see how they've basically set you up to fail by just throwing you in the front cab and then say you gotta go now, with nothing set up properly. Would it normally be set up like that? I doubt it, but you know, let's try it this way, right? Let's see. Oh, let's put the reverser in forward. A bit of throttle. And release the brakes. So this usually takes a little bit because the entire train has to lose its pressure, or I suppose apply its pressure. The pressure has to build up again to release the brakes. Let's see, Sandy. There. Come on. As you can see, it will eventually move. Five is a bit too much. Even with those rear two working properly, it doesn't want to start easy. Yo-yoing a little bit here. I'm sure somebody will be in the comments going, "You idiot, you guys should have done it differently." However, we are moving. We've got the rear and the front set up properly, and we're finally moving. And as you can see, once it's actually moving, it moves easily. if you didn't set it up the way I just did, you could get it moving eventually as well, but it's not pretty. It really isn't. So I hope I showed you something, and let me, there you go. Gotta move the sun visor to be able to get to, well, at least one of the, useless. You gotta stand up to move your windshield wipers. There you go. So I hope I showed you something useful. I certainly wish that there was a video like this for me in the beginning, because I really had to dig deep on the internet. There's a lot of conflicting information. There's a lot of information, you know, where people say, well, I've been driving trains for 20 years and we do it this way, and I've been driving trains for 30 years and I've been doing it that way. There's a lot of back and forth that I see. But anyway, this setup works for trains in Will. So I hope this helps you. And I'll see you again for another video maybe soon. Bye bye.